Okay, I'm going to call to order the Finance and Audit Committee meeting. It is about 3:33. And I will read the statement of announcement first. The meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the January 19th, 2022 Finance and Audit Committee meeting was distributed January 18th, 2022 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. Americans with Disabilities Act. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance. Okay, the next item is the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All right, the agenda as presented is approved as written. The next item on the agenda is to review the minutes from the December 13th, 2021 Finance and Audit Committee meeting, which are in your packet. And I get a motion to approve these minutes as written for December.
So moved that we approve the minutes as written. I read them in their comments.
Okay.
Second.
All right. The December 13th, 2021 meeting minutes are approved as written. The next item on the agenda is the financial approval and threshold report for January 2022. Which is on page 5 of our agenda, and Candace Golston is going to present to us on that. Candace.
So we received 2 response to the fixed price bid for the residential service for children. We received those on MMO received them on November 25th. January 6th. And they've been approved by our internal approvers here at DDSN. And this is the solicitation that is collaborative with DJJ, DMH. So we're requesting that we get approval to award these 2 contracts today in this meeting and not go to the commission meeting for tomorrow.
And go to the commission meeting or
I said not.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So we currently have 39 providers that's already have been awarded contracts under this solicitation.
We had this on the agenda not too long ago. So,
correct.
Yeah.
We had another provider doing this. There's a fixed price bid. So doing this fixed price bid, we have different opening dates. So that's why you may see it multiple times throughout the calendar year.
Okay. So you need us to approve this, the 2 providers that you reviewed. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions before I make or want to make a motion on this, since it's pretty standard? Approval.
I move that we approve it. I'll second.
Second? Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. So we will approve the request to approve these 2 providers that you guys have presented to us today. So, all right, okay, thank you, Candace. The next item on our agenda today is the fee for service update from Lori Manis. Lori?
Good afternoon. We continue to make progress on the transition to full fee for service and direct enrollment for our providers for home and community-based services with an implementation date of March 1. As you'll remember, there's kind of a hybrid approach that's going on between January 1st and the end of February, where we're still paying providers prospectively, but we're at the end of the month, we're running reports to determine their actual billings and kind of settling up behind it. We have completed and sent out new contracts to all DDSN providers of home community-based services with the help of Medicaid, with an effective date of March 1 related to them billing HHS directly. We have the majority of those contracts back. I think we just have a few that we're waiting on. Medicaid has opened up provider enrollment. They need that contract in order to enroll to bill Medicaid directly. The provider enrollment will give them a Medicaid ID number and allow them to do the billing. Provider enrollment opened a couple of weeks ago. Most of our providers have started to apply. They've identified 2 providers that they're going to push through the enrollment process to do some billing testing prior to doing training on how to bill. But Medicaid hopes to be able to do billing training kind of the first, second week of February, maybe third week of February. They will do training on how to bill manually, how to bill through their web tool, as well as EDI transfers, which is kind of using an agent to bill for you. DDSN has been working with TheraP to develop a billing option for our providers. TheraP will have a billing option available on March 1st. It is going to be what they can get done by March 1st, and then we have some enhancements that we're going to try to do that billing module between March 1st and July 1st. But TheraP will do training for our providers after HHS has done their provider billing training. DHHS has created a microsite as part of their website that includes all the information for our providers, kind of a one-stop place where they can go and get links to provider enrollment. We, in conjunction with HHS has issued a frequently asked questions document that we've gathered from all the different meetings that we've had that has the questions and the written answers around direct enrollment and direct payment from them. That's also included on the site. So give you all that update to say, we're making progress. There's a lot of work that is being done between our agency and Health and Human Services. We meet at least weekly. Usually it's more than that, to try to keep things moving.
Has the ICF community rates been established yet?
Yeah, so they have published kind of a composite rate, but they have not given us the individualized rates for the ICF Regional Center and ICF Community, so we don't have either of those rates yet. We have asked them for those rates, and we're just awaiting that back from them. But as soon as we get it, we'll push it out.
How does that impact the planning for providers when they don't have rates?
So at this stage of the game, ICFs, and Rufus might be able to speak to this a little bit better than me, but DDSN is the license holder for all ICFs versus whether they're community or whether they're regional centers. The payment for ICFs, that payment system is not changing right now. So I understand we do have a pass-through rate, and they're getting the rate that they've been getting. I think that the new rate should be more. We just don't know exactly what it is. So I'm sure that providers are interested in knowing that. And like I said, we've asked HHS and are awaiting that decision.
And as we know, we already have an average. We have a very good idea of what it's going to be, and it's certainly going to be more. So
it will be more.
So, but we have an average. You don't have a direct rate, but you have an average rate right now, don't you? I mean, you have a very good idea, right?
So my understanding is
you don't have to give it to me in public right here, but I'm just asking. I'm just saying you have one, right? So
we have a composite rate.
Right. So that's what you mean, and that's an average rate, right? Right.
So it will be most likely in that range that you already have.
Yeah.
Right. Or is it a range, or is it an actual
It's a rate. It's a rate of
One rate.
It's a rate.
Yes.
It's a rate for community and a rate for regional centers, right? And the composite rate includes both, and it's a weighted average of both. Number of people in each.
And it's gonna be a matter of what percentage increase it is, that's all.
All right. Anything else on fee for service? Lori?
Unless you guys have questions.
Questions?
Not at this time. I just love to hear the word March 1st. That's, I just want to hear it say that we need to be pushing that like
Tomorrow.
like a horse pushes toward his trough whenever he is thirsty.
All right, thank you.
But we like all sorts of things like that.
Our next item on this agenda today is the electrical power grids and replacing those. And so Andrew Theron is going to present on that topic.
The power grids are a topic that's kind of been briefly discussed in the past, but we're really kind of ready to take the next step with them. So that's kind of what we're presenting here today. Just to kind of recap, DDSN owns and operates medium voltage electrical power grid infrastructure at both Midland Center and Coastal Center. The equipment is I mean, it was installed back in the 60s, I believe. It's well beyond its useful rated life. So we need to update and replace the transformers and all the conduit at each of the campuses. Dominion Energy has offered a variety of options and different parameters at each campus. To not get into too much detail about each of the options, option one is just for us to go at it alone and not deal with Dominion at all. I don't think that's really an option. We would have to take on all initial cost. We would have to take on all repair costs over the next several years. In 40 years, when it's time to do this again, we would be on the hook to do it all again. So getting Dominion involved in offloading this power infrastructure onto them, I think is ideal for the agency. In a lot of discussions with former CFO, Pat Maley, we settled on option two that they've provided for each of the campuses. In the packet, there's a little bit of information there about what the 20-year cost on that option is. So the way it works is generally that each of our portion of the bill to go do this install is probably about $1.3, $1.5 million respectively for each campus. And just a side note, we do have one-time appropriations from the State House to cover the cost at Coastal Center. So that one's essentially paid for. Well, we would be on the hook for Midland Center, but anyways, we would have to cover that portion of the cost. Dominion is going to pick up about $1 million of the cost at each of the campuses. And once we do that, we will pay them a surcharge for the next 20 years over the course of this contract to maintain and to essentially take over this system. And it would get our maintenance staff and our any funds that we get us off the hook for maintaining this thing over the next 20 years and technically forever. If there's any particular questions about the different options that they offer, again, option one was essentially us go at it alone. The options 2, 3, and 4 are kind of weighted different. Some of them are more initial costs where the payments over time are a little less versus lower initial costs where we pay a little bit more month over the next 20 years. But the options are all laid out in the handouts. But we are recommending to move forward with option 2 for both campuses.
So my first question is, did we ask the General Assembly to help cover the Midlands and they just denied us, or did we only ask them for coastal, or what's the background?
I believe we only asked them for one. I think, yeah, I can't.
That was because.
I couldn't tell you why, to be honest with you. I think Rob was involved in making that request.
My recollection is we escrowed money for Midlands a while back, and then we were waiting Dominion. And this is actually a legacy project that started with SCE&G. And so once they had the changeover, we had to deal with new agents. And so that was the delay. But my understanding is Midlands was a funded project a while back. And then because of the changeover and change of administration, it kind of took the back burner. And then Coastal was a new legislative ask and was funded. So we want to go ahead and execute both plans now.
So when you say Midlands was funded, you mean we had money and
Escrow. Yes,
reserve to pay for that?
yes, ma'am. And I believe it was presented in prior CPIP.
Yeah, both of these projects were presented to the commission and approved back on May 2021, as part of the 5 year.
So what did we approve then?
That,
Exactly.
that we were going to move forward with this project to install our portion of the new agreement.
And was there a cost associated with it in the
Yeah.
projection? I don't remember exactly that.
Yeah, and there was,
General projected cost.
yeah, it's an estimated construction cost at this point. It's 1.3 for coastal, 1.5 for Midlands would cover our portion of the construction.
Okay.
With Dominion putting up about $1 million per campus.
Very-
Yeah. My main question is, with the situation we have right now with the FMAT funds, why do we think it wouldn't be more prudent for us to pay more money up front and pay less money over 20 years?
In discussions with, again,
It's not here anymore,
yeah.
and so we want to move on to the next. Why do you think that's true?
I believe if you go for the higher rate over the 20 years of the higher monthly rate, you've got more of an opportunity to build that into the rates over the next several years to get a majority of it refunded. Where if you just pay the initial cost
Refunded by who?
through the rate increases.
Yes, the ICFs are a cost-based program. And so again, you do cost reports. It takes into account the cost of operations. And so I think that was a factor in the decision-making in the past.
Yeah, so
And then also if you do the upfront costs, it's basically sunk costs, and of course, we're here today, but in the next 5 years, we may have different thoughts regarding how many campuses we have.
Madam Chair, we're not in the power grid business. We need the power grid.
Right, we do.
Yeah, so my
We just need to
recommendation,
turn-
We're not in the power grid business, but we are into deciding how much money we should put up front or how much money we should pay on a regular basis.
The budget, the
And
budget side.
we are
of
in the
it.
budget side of this
Right.
matter.
We can approve the budget side of it.
And we can decide which we think is better in that regard.
option 2
Is there,
Why? Why do you think option 2 is better?
is better because we're not in the power grid business.
well, option 3 also, is something we should consider, to Barry's point,
Option 3 is what I was thinking, but I was trying to figure out why we thought 2 was better than
Right.
3.
again, I think the idea is that eventually the
I'm not thinking about 1, don't get me wrong. It was a downright foolish thing for them to be thinking about doing this in the 1960s, the way they did it, but that's the way they did things it's not just in the 1960s, but the way this agency was ran in the 1960s, we don't want to talk about right now, or even in the 1990s compared to the 1960s.
But the grid business have changed, am I correct, from how it used to be?
It's, I mean, we do, in maintenance, we've got the same issues, as anyone else does with nursing or anything else to maintain staff that can take care of these grids. It's an issue right now, just like staffing is anywhere else. So to hand all that over to Dominion, greatly benefit our maintenance staff. So.
and I think we probably agree on
It's
doing
not an
that.
issue of that, nobody's
It's
an
how
issue of
should
that.
we pay for it?
It's how should we pay for it,
Is
and-
what we're trying to get insight on from you guys, and why you presented why you're recommending to.
Over number 3, that's all I'm asking.
Again, I think the thought process is over time that you would find that cost of doing business end up into the rates over a 20-year period.
And I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume anything around here, but I will assume that at the end of that 20-year period, we no longer have any other responsibility toward this system, and Dominion is 100% their responsibility from now on, correct?
It would be theirs, but there would be some type of renewal of this contract in 20 years with completely different numbers on it, given the fact that they don't have any initial construction costs.
There should be another option where we don't have it should be indefinite, because it should have been indefinite from the beginning. It should have been indefinite from the 1960s, that whoever the power company was would have been the one responsible for this anyway. We should have put it up. I mean, I can't talk to anybody that's probably passed away since in the 1960s, but the point is, that should have been done this way, and we should look into the possibility of having that now to where in 20 years, we don't have any other responsibility, period. Because we shouldn't have any responsibility towards it anyway. This is an electric company. We're not in the power grid business. He's right about that. And so we shouldn't have to keep paying for it. We should have to keep paying our electric bill like everybody else pays.
So, before you described, Andrew, what our responsibility was when it comes to the power grid and what Dominion or SCNG's responsibility was. Can you restate that again? I think you said we have to maintain what's on our property
Yeah,
or
there's
our.
part of it. Yeah, I understand that.
So speak to that for a minute, just so I can
The
remember how you.
proposal that's in the packet, they spell it on page 1 of 8 here. They kind of separate the responsibilities. We would be responsible for running all the, in-ground conduits, pouring the pads for the transformers. Really what they're doing is supplying the step-down transformers and wiring the transformers into the buildings. We're essentially running all the cabling. And that's our portion of the work versus theirs.
Is that what you're asking?
No,
I
so
didn't think so.
we will never be able to walk away from any of the power grid responsibilities as long as we own these buildings and we run these facilities, correct? Is that what I'm hearing y'all say?
Yeah, that's correct. Because there would always be a maintenance aspect to maintaining that grid.
One of the reasons why they use the number 20, that's the best life expectancy
Right,
of that grid,
for the grid,
right?
right?
And technology, when I was in the United States Air Force,
Yeah,
that was a part of my background. Technology is changing while we're talking right now.
yeah. So, we're always gonna have some responsibility of maintaining the grid. You're saying we
Well, we just
shouldn't
need-
have to
we need-
replace the grid in 20 years.
Right,
Somebody
we're
else
saying-
needs to pay for it,
Right,
and
we're
not us.
saying we need.
But y'all are saying that's probably not an option.
Yeah.
We're always gonna have to have a reliable grid on our property for our facilities that we can't we're probably gonna always have that. I'm just trying to look to Barry's comment about the future and what we can get away from and what we can't, and I'm just trying, and I respect his opinion to think differently about things. That's really what we want to do as much as possible, with this agency and with the decisions we have to make, that we look and explore as much as possible before we just accept,
Yeah, I mean,
what's today is gonna be 20 years from now or whatever. So that's what we'd like some more
One
information on.
clarification though, and we'll agree we're on the same page, which is why we're trying to execute, because these are legacy projects and that are really critical. But we don't have the expertise or the capacity to maintain our own power grid. So ultimately, this transfers the responsibilities to people who are in the whole utilities business. So we won't have to maintain but we have some site work to do in order for Dominion to actually get in and take over and load the transformers. So it's actually.
So right now, we are maintaining, but going forward, we won't have to maintain? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, yeah.
Well, then what?
Okay,
Let me go back to my question again.
we still have the flexibility to determine how we want to pay for this.
Yeah.
Maintenance or the cost of the actual power grid overall?
If we chose to go at it alone, we would assume all the upfront construction costs, all maintenance costs. Next time it's got to be replaced, we would be on the hook for that as well.
Nobody in this room is suggesting, I don't think, that we want to be in the power grid business or that we don't want to do option 2 or option 3. What we're trying to do, option 1, I think everybody on this panel, and I assume everybody on the commission, would think that option 1 was out. We don't need to discuss option 1 anymore. What we're trying to discuss is option 2 or option 3 or 4 to decide how we want to pay for it. And what I was trying to get to a minute ago is after what I was trying to do is give us as least responsibility as possible after that 20 years was up, because it shouldn't be our responsibility anymore, period, after the 20 years is up. If we're talking about, unless it's something that's on our property that they cannot get to or we could not grant them access to, which I can't understand why that would be. But if you can tell me why that is, that's fine. But, I mean, because I'm not a power expert and don't claim to be, but I try to use a lot of common sense. And so what I'm trying to get to is, and I could talk a lot about how we didn't think about things in even 20 years ago like we should have, and thinking forward. And that's all I'm trying to do now, is thinking forward instead of the backwards way we used to think around here.
Yeah. In 20 years, when this is renewed, I mean, there are going to be a lot of different factors involved. There won't be construction costs involved at that time. You know, Dominion would have to take it all on. Now, we might still have some surcharge at that time, because we've still got equipment on our property that they've got to maintain. And that's the way they look at it, is that you're using this infrastructure and we've got to maintain it. So they charge you for it.
So in your memo here, you say less upfront cost is preferred given the marginal difference in 20-year cost. So break that down for me so I can really understand what you're saying when you say that.
Yeah, I guess that's where she's trying to go is exactly why it is better. Because I still don't see why it's better not to do upfront costs more right now, but.
Again, option 2 was only my recommendation. You know, if people feel that a higher upfront cost is.
We respect your recommendation.
I know, we're trying to respect your recommendation.
why
We're trying to we're just trying to be convinced. That's all. We're trying to, I like to be convinced
We
of
just
what
want
I'm
to make a
thinking is
smart
wrong.
financial commitment is what we really want to do, is make a smart financial commitment. And so I just wanted to see if you had any additional information regarding that analysis that you have in this memo or that Pat wrote, just so I can really understand.
The thought process was that to eventually, trickle down into the rates.
That we can't do right now, and that's why. I mean, I'm just trying to understand. I don't know why.
Michelle, you want to help us out here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm just going to say what Andrew has already said, but maybe in a different way. But if our rate increases each year, and if it increases at a level that is higher than the interest approach of looking at the difference, the gaps between options 2, 3, and 4, then the agency benefits because we would recoup the difference. Because these 3 different levels were projected out given the current rate. So if our rate through HHS increases every 2 years and that exceeds, then that would benefit us, right?
You mean they would have
So-
another reason to give us more money?
Well, with cost reports, the rate, just like the rate now is going up because of the submission of cost reports. So what the thought is, if the ICF rate increases, then we would use those proceeds for the payment of option 2.
How often have the ICF rates increased? Like in a 10-year period, how many times?
Over the last few years, they've increased due to legislative appropriations to increase direct care salaries. And then, again, with with us introducing cost reports, it's tied to new costs that have been evidenced through the 19 cost reports most recently. But in the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, we've had rate increases to, adjust and reflect the increases in salaries. And going forward, of course, the ICS usually serves some of the state's most vulnerable citizens, and the level of care is more involved. And of course, the cost of doing business and operating long-term care facilities are increasing. So it's, a reasonable person would expect rates to increase, in the future as well.
I'm not opposed to option 2 since everybody feels that that's the smartest way to go. I mean, we're betting on the rate increases. We're hopeful for the rate increases. That would, like you said, offset the higher cost if we go with option 2 that we'll pay over time. So,
I don't think it's a bad idea, I just don't,
well, we just want
we're just in
clarity
a
of
unique,
why
we're
we
just in a
wanted.
unique situation right now with the amount of money we have, we're never gonna
Right, that's true.
have. COVID is gonna be gone and we're never gonna have this kind of money.
That is true.
I don't think.
Did
but
y'all
it's-
think through that at all? Like, was that considered at all? Like, oh, we have a good bit of reserve right
It was,
now?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you in my discussions, I know he's not here anymore, but my discussions with Pat, yeah, he absolutely considered that, so.
Okay, good. All right.
Yes, you think option two?
Yes, I do. I mean, the commission did just vote to disperse 12 million of those
Right,
6.2% FMAP dollars. So when you also consider that we anticipate that the implementation of the new IDRD waiver, there's an estimated cost of 7 million for that. So the projected cash carry forward is getting smaller and smaller and closer to, 1 month reserve. We also have a couple of other buckets of dollars that we need to be mindful of making sure we maintain, which is some potential that we could have cost report liability for cost reports that we have to still submit. So when we
do
total
have cost
those,
report liability. There's no question that's.
right. So while we know that there are these monies from the 6.2% FMAP. We just released 12 million. And when you total those other buckets of dollars that are targeted to these specific purposes, we think that this is a more conservative approach to ensure that we have sufficient monies for absorbing those known upcoming expenses or potential upcoming expenses.
All right, then, for today, does someone want to make a motion to approve option 2?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, so this committee approves the option 2 on the electrical grid that the agency has presented to us today. So, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Andrew. The next item on our agenda, before I move on, does the commission also have to approve this?
Yeah.
So it needs to go to the commission.
We plan to take the commission.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Nancy is going to do the financial update, which is on page 30 of your packet. Okay? Uh-huh. Yeah.
This is the spending plan versus the actual expenditures as of the end of December 31st. Our spending plan was approved at 851 million. EDSN's cash outlay of 341.8 million. Our wash at HHS is 69.6, and that is comprised of 92.1 million of services being billed by providers, less us paying the 22.5 million of state match. Those two together puts us at 411 million at 6 months. So that's 48.34%. So we're a little bit under the 50%, 1.66.
All right. Do you have anything else for your financial update? Is it just this chart with the spending, just the chart? Okay. Typically, I think this is presented to the full commission and the full commission approves the spending.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. The full commission will have to do it. So.
Okay. I don't remember us approving it though in the last meeting.
I don't remember this one.
I feel like we always just take it to the commission and the commission. This particular.
Well, if we did it, it was only last meeting. It wasn't before that.
Okay.
But we can do it both. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's just, it doesn't hurt anything. It's
So
just
this plan you're going to present to the commission on Thursday,
What
tomorrow.
we would ask is there anything different you're gonna present to the commission than you're presenting right now?
It wouldn't be any different.
All right, well then. I think we'll take it to the commission. And I don't think there's,
Right, there's no reason for us to approve it at the commission.
so tomorrow we can, as a full commission.
We can just forward it to
Look
the,
at it
to the
and
commission.
approve it.
We can recommend the commission sees the report again. Yes,
What will be included in the financial?
and or we
update?
can take it as information and go move
Yeah.
on. Go ahead.
That's what I think.
I'm sorry, that's the best way to
It's
put
fine.
it.
That's just how we normally do it. So
Not
this
being
was
diplomatic,
just-
I'm not being diplomatic enough here.
Sure.
We should have just take this as information and move on.
Okay, all right. If no one has any questions, then we'll move to the next item, the agenda today.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. The next item is our internal audit update from Courtney Crosby.
I'll start with an update on our agreed upon procedures report. So at the December meeting, we reported that internal audit was still reviewing 4 2020 agreed upon procedures reports from private providers. One of those has been completed. There are 3 remaining. The contract reductions related to the 2020 reports totaled $20,300, and we don't anticipate any further contract reductions for 2020. We've received 2021 agreed upon procedures reports from all the boards, and there are 9 providers with June 30 year ends, and we have received their 2021 reports. The private provider reports should be coming in any day now for the September 30 year ends. There are 3 private providers with that September 30 year end, so their reports would be due January 31st. So we've started reviewing these 2021 agreed upon procedures reports as well. We've completed the review for 4 boards and for 3 private providers, and our 2021 contract reductions are currently at $5,600. So you should have received a copy of the audit observation tracking report by email. So we'll continue to update that tracking report as follow-up procedures are completed, and it will be presented to you quarterly for information purposes. So when I first briefed the committee and the commission, I stated that we had a number of projects from fiscal year 2021 that had carried over into fiscal year 2022 that we were working to complete. So we're starting to wrap up some of those engagements. So I'm going to be working on an audit plan that'll really just kind of bridge the gap until our audit universe and our risk assessment are completed, and we can develop that fiscal year 2023 audit plan. So as part of this kind of interim audit plan development, I'm going to be creating and sending a risk survey, and that's going to go to the commissioners and members of the executive team for feedback. So just be on the look for that in your inbox. And then at our December meeting, Commissioner Lamel asked about audit resources, and I stated that we would be posting a position for an IT audit manager. So that position description has been drafted and sent down to HR, and we're looking forward to it posting. So may I answer any questions?
You know, if we had that position in the past, or we never, or as far as you know, we never have.
There was an audit manager previously, so it is using that audit manager slot, but we've added some additional requirements for IT audit experience.
Just curious to know how long have we not had one?
Not sure that there has been an IT audit manager. Do you know the answer to that?
I think it's 3 years.
3 years.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think I have any questions. Does anyone else have any questions on this or anything else that isn't reported on today for some reason? Any questions? Is that the only position that you think needs? Or are you still kind of evaluating?
There is one additional position that's been assigned to internal audit. And as we build that audit universe and we get a feel for risk appetite and the type of coverage that we'll need, we'll determine whether that position needs to be filled.
All right. Well, I think we're good, Courtney. Thank you for your update. I think the next item on our agenda is just stating the meeting date for the February Finance and Audit Committee meeting, which had been for a while the Monday before the Thursday commission meeting. There is discussion that we're going to maybe change that going forward. It won't be the Monday going forward. We just don't know yet which date. So we'll share that and publish that new February date within the required time. So for the notice. So just wanted to mention that for item number 10. And can someone make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mary? No?
Aren't we supposed to say,
What?
is there any further business to come before the commission?
I don't usually say that, but I can, normally I can certainly make a note to always say that if you prefer. So is there any other business for this committee for today?
I don't have any, I'm
You
just.
sure
being
you
a
don't
little-
have any?
I don't have any more, I'm just being playful because it's January.
I know, well, that's a good reminder, so thank you for reminding me to make sure I say that in every meeting.
You don't have to.
I
It's
know,
just
but it
something I
is
would
good.
say.
I know. All right, so can I get a second on adjourning?
Second, I adjourn.
All right, thank you. All right, so we are adjourning at